Hey everyone, it's Zach Wright from IMEO Company, improving management, employees, and organizations by focusing on their people, process, and purpose through business coaching and consulting. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I've seen across the internet a lot where they talk about your first 30, 60, 90 days. But I really want to hone in on the first 30 days because I think that that is one of the most important time frames when you're going into a business or an organization and you're taking on direct reports, or you're the manager, or you're transitioning into a management role into that current organization that you work for. And some of these people are going to be your peers. Some of these people are going to be people that you worked with before. Now they report up to you. So, this video is going to be teaching you about what I do and what I coach our clients on when they're transitioning into this role. So, if you're interested, stay tuned and we'll dive into it now. Okay, so we're looking at a slide deck here. You can easily make this on your own, but it's really just a guide on how I coach my clients and how I often use this myself whenever transitioning into that new position. So the first 30 days, my key thing that I want you to know is, what is it to be expected? And that means, what do I expect of you as my employees, and what do you expect, or what can you expect as an employee? So that's the first step here. I'm going to tell them about the first week. So, what does the first week look like for me in this transition? And ultimately, what does it look like for them as well? So, I want to understand the current things that are going on in the organization. If it's a sales team, what are the deals? What are the projects? What are the different things that we have going on? Because you can't really come into an organization in the first 30 days and feel like you can say, hey, I want you to do this, this, and this. You're going to lose trust right away. So if you don't take the time to understand what is going on in the organization, you're starting off on a bad foot. And once you start off on that bad foot, it's very difficult to come back and build that trust with your team. So take the first step, and really, the key word here is to understand. And you can see here with some bullet points. So the first step is to gain a better understanding of what people have on their plate, what the organization's needs are, and how to execute on that. Not to execute, but how to execute. So one of the ways that I do this is scheduling recurring one-on-ones. Now, at a later time, you might be able to go to every other week, but I like to have these weekly, especially in the first 30 days, probably the 60, and even into the 90 days, because I want to have that connection with my team and understand what it is that they expect of me, what I expect of them, because that's where you can really dive into detail. But even further than that, in one-on-one situations, you're able to understand and get to know them better on a personal level. That's another key step here. Don't just understand your people from a professional level, get to know them. So when they are a little bit frustrated, or they're stressed out, or they feel like they can't accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, then you as a manager can react appropriately. And what I mean by that is, let's say that a project has been taking longer than expected. It's been asking people to stay over and work later, but this specific individual has a teenage daughter, and they play soccer or they play volleyball, and they've been really stressed because they didn't know if they were going to be able to make this tournament, or they didn't know if they were going to be able to go here. So understanding your people inside the organization and outside the organization helps you better manage them, and it helps you better understand how to help them cope with the stress. And that's just one example. There's a lot of other things that can be going on, right? The more that you know about them, the better it is to manage them appropriately. And appropriately is the key word there. Also, schedule team meetings. I work in a 100% remote environment. So for me, I need to be intentional with my team, because I can't just go over to the desk and say, hey, such and such, how are these areas going? I can't just do that. So I have to make it intentional. So the other key of this, a key point of this is to not become micromanaging, but to become consistent, right? So whenever you schedule a team meeting, make sure that that stays on the calendar. When you schedule a one-on-one, make sure that stays on the calendar. And the reason behind this is because that tells them, hey, I care about you. I care about your development and your growth in this organization, and I want to be able to help you. And I want to, in this one-on-one or this team meeting is important to me. And I won't move it unless I'm out of the office or unless something comes up where they have to move it, right? It's just these little things that tells the employees that you care this much about them, right? Because they might not tell you personally or verbally what is going on in the background, but once you miss a one-on-one and then you miss another one-on-one, and even worse, if you miss a one-on-one and you don't tell them why you missed a one-on-one, you're losing trust. And starting out losing trust in the first 30 days is an uphill climb ever since that happens, right? So avoid that. And then the third bullet point here is understand what has happened in the past. Because here's the thing, and you might not understand everything in that 30-day period, but understanding what has happened in the past will help you avoid, especially if you're coming in to the organization new or you're transitioning in and there's people that have been in this position longer than you have, you want to avoid having them do things that are duplicative to what they've already done, right? Think about a time that you've been asked to to replicate or uh, do something that is redundant. You've already done it before. There's this new manager that comes into town and he's asking you or she's asking you, hey, Zach, I know that we've done this in the past, but I think we can do a little bit better. Let's do this. And it's like, I know that in the employee's mind, they're going to be asking why. So don't do that. Understand, take the time, and it does take time. Take time to understand what has happened in the past. Now, you might find some things that you do want to move forward with that has happened in the past. And if that's the case, explain the why behind it. Because it's not that people don't like change, it's that they don't like to change if there's not a reason behind it. You know? Manage these people like you would want to be managed yourself. So if you're about to do something, ask yourself, how would I react to that? Would I react positively or negatively? Would this impact me positively or negatively, right? And if the answer is negatively, don't do it or change the way that you would do it where the response or the outcome would be positive, right? So let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. So continuing on the first 30 days, and I've already mentioned this, but focus is understand. The key thing is to understand. I'm probably going to say that 1,000 more times, so I apologize in advance. But you want to know the known, the unknown, and what it takes to be successful. So the way that I do this, and it depends on what type of company you are in, but I focus on the people, process, and product. And one thing that I didn't mention here is the purpose, because I think they're all tied together. And the reason I said it depends on the organization, because that product uh, word could be changed to service. It could be changed to customer experience. It could be changed to whatever matches your organization. But people and process will always be there. So your goal should be to learn as much as possible about the people, process, and product. And after you learn that, you'll be able to really understand their purpose. So let me dive into this on the people side. This is what I say to the people. I want to get to know everyone on a personal and professional level. The key stakeholders, the influencers, my team, the people who interact with us cross departmentally, right? The reason I want to get to know them personally and professionally, it goes back to the one-on-ones, is that you're able to communicate better. You're able to have better outcomes when you understand these people professionally and even more so personally, right? So whenever we're talking about incentivizing people, a lot of people just think that everyone wants money. Money is the key. Money is the ruler of all, right? Well, that's just not true, because as I mentioned before in the teenage daughter example, if you have somebody who has a teenage daughter, I can guarantee you, in most cases, I can guarantee you that they would rather have time to spend with her, or time to go see her recital, the volleyball game, the softball game, whatever it is, the debate club meeting, whatever it is, they would rather see that than have an extra $100 in their pocket, or an extra $500 in their pocket, right? Or both. So really understand who your people are and the people around you, right? So even the people that you don't directly manage, getting to know them better will create better relationships, which will ultimately help you execute on what you need. It will help your team execute on what they need, because you have that relationship, and as a result, your team now has that relationship. So that's on the people part. Then the process. I want to learn all the processes we have here, right? And for this one, I say the sales engineers, because I've had I'm managing a group of sales engineers, but you fill in the occupation here that you're managing, right? I used to manage technical recruiters. So I want to learn all the processes for that specific area, and anything related to us as well. First, I want to understand specific to us. What are the processes? What are the procedures? What are the things that we do on a daily basis that I need to know about? And the reason that I want to know about these processes is so I don't get blindsided, or I don't have somebody from a different department come up to me and say, well, this is how we do it over here, and then take it back to the team. And the team says, well, you know what? Actually, this is how we do it. So now you have a conflict. But if you know that in that first 30 days you're trying to get that understanding of the processes, then you're able to move forward. And the key part here is to gain those small wins, right? So if somebody comes up to you in a different department and says, this is how we do this here, or we need this now, and there's a prioritization process, and you know about that prioritization process, you can say, well, actually, that's not how we apply this here. The team is limited on their resource allocation capabilities. So what we have to do is go through this prioritization process. So that's a small win, because that tells your team, hey, Zach has come on board and I really saw him fight for us. And that was within the first 30 days. So what that does, it takes it an uptick a little bit on that level of trust, that they start to trust in you, right? Every little bit compounds on itself, and every little bit matters, and you have to care about that, because if you forget about that part, then you're starting again on an uphill battle. So avoid that. Now the last part, again, it could be product, it could be service, it could be whatever the case is that you have in your organization, whatever makes sense to you. So I want to know how we deliver our product. I want to know how we deliver our service, and how do we work with the teams around us. Again, if it's a sales organization, in the deals, if it's a physical product, and it's not like a software or anything like that, how do we go about working with teams around us? I used to work in a factory where we were building mobile homes, and whenever it got to us, we knew that the foundation was already there, the walls were built, the um, drywall was in there, the tarp was on there. So then we can go in and start roofing. So how we need to understand what connects us to other organizations or other departments that we need to know about. And then it all ties in together, right? So once we know about the people, the process, and the product, then we can create that purpose. And we'll get a little bit to this later whenever we talk about the mission, but we get to the purpose behind this, right? So whenever you know about a person professionally and personally, then you can understand what their purpose is. And then you tie that to the company's purpose. And that increases engagement, satisfaction, and productivity if you do it correctly, right? There's a lot of ways to do it incorrectly, so avoid that. But now, as we transition into the next slide, this is very high level, right? Because this is more of a template rather than a specific PowerPoint for you. And even if you're not watching this, I'm trying to tie it all together because I think this might also be a podcast on our Chasing Success podcast coming up soon. So what we're looking at here is key areas. What are the areas of focus to learn and help us all where possible? Now, that terminology and that wording is very important because it's not, I want to learn as much as possible where I can help me become the best leader. No, it's, I want to learn as much as possible where I can help all of us, right? Because it's a team effort. And if you go in there with the misconception that a leader is the person who has the authority and it's the person who tells everybody what to do, again, you're starting off on the wrong foot and you're probably going to lose trust as soon as you get in there. So, what you want to do is come in with the servant leadership type mindset. When you become a leader, you don't tell people what to do. They don't work for you. You work for them. Your goal should be to overcome or help them overcome any blockers, any challenges, help them develop and become better at their job. And that all comes from a servant mindset leader or a servant leader mindset, right? So think about that when you're going through this. So what you know coming into the position, what do you know? These are the key areas. I know this, this, and this. And then you want to talk about what you want to learn about the team, the department, and the position, right? And then learn what is working, what needs improvement, roadblockers, and try to get full visibility into the department. Now, the key here is you want to become extremely familiar before offering improvements. That's another way to lose trust. I've had managers that come into the position and then they become my manager, right? And they start with this copy and paste or cookie cutter approach where it's like every team is the same. I know how to manage everybody. I know what is expected. Right off the bat, you're losing people because you didn't get to know them. You didn't get to understand what motivates them. And you're literally taking what you did at an old company or an old position with different people and applying it to a new position, a new company with new people. Everybody is different. Every team is different and every organization is different. Now, it's good to have a framework that you can build upon. That's what I would call this. This is a framework, but it's not copy and paste because people are different. So I can't take that same approach that I did in the last organization and expect it to work 100% here. So I want to call that out. Now, we also want to learn and continue ongoing efforts in relation to tools. So what type of tools are we using in the organization? We're heavy in this tech environment, this tech world, internet world, where a lot of companies have tools. And some of them you might be familiar with, some of them you might not be familiar with. So learn about those tools because I'm sure that those are part of the process. And again, if you're on a sales team, or just in general, if it makes sense, what are the comp plans? What are the bonus plans? And then learn about what are the projects. And don't just stop there. Continue learning. And now I know that this is really circled in that 30-day time frame, but this is continuous, right? So whatever else that you need to learn, you'll continue that into your 60, 90, and beyond days at this position, right? And really, the last part on this is the key areas. The last one is better understand the culture before offering any ideas, right? You want to understand who your people are, who the company is, what the purpose is, what the mission is, and understand that before you start offering advice. And one of the best ways to do this, which is something that a lot of leaders don't do, is talk to your team. Don't go into your organization feeling like you have to know everything because, shocking and surprising, not everybody knows everything, right? So don't go into an organization acting like you know everything. Now, you might have the experience and you have that credibility, which is great because that tells people, okay, this guy coming in here, this girl coming in here, they know what they're talking about, so I should listen. But don't just bark orders. Learn from them, right? With all of my coaching clients, I tell them, I don't know everything. I don't expect you to know everything. And we're going to learn as much from one another as you are from me specifically. That's how you want to think about leadership and going into this new role. So if we go to the next slide here, I talked about setting clear expectations, right? So whenever we're talking about setting clear expectations, what we want to do is pick 3 things that you're going to be focusing on, right? So for me, I want to create a shared knowledge culture. And the reason that I do that is because a lot of the teams that I work with are smaller teams, right? And we want to be able to leverage all the knowledge that we have to make that small team as impactful as possible. For example, if you're in an organization and you sell 3 products, right? So you have, let's just say, you have one physical product, you have one cloud product, and then you have a service product. Well, what you can do is you can take your team and figure out who is the specialty or who is the SME, subject matter expert, in that field or that specific product. Have them share with the team what they know and then have them document it, whether that's in a document or a video or both, you know, have them understand what it is that this specific product is all about, and then have the 2 other people do it for their areas of expertise, and then share that. Now, what you have is 3 SMEs who can do 3 things rather than one SME that can do one thing. You see, that takes you from 3 experts to 3 experts in 9 different fields, right? Or 3 fields, and then you multiply that by 3, and that's 9. So you've expanded your ability as a team already. Then this is where you're taking your learning. So this is more towards the end of the 30 days. You're identifying areas of success and improvements. You want to find the great things and double down on those. And then also find the things that aren't good and try to eliminate those or improve those. And then the next step is create alignment and trust. This is a thing, especially in a remote environment, 100% remote. You have to be intentional with your communication. You have to be intentional with creating that alignment, and you have to be intentional with delivering what is needed for teams to have that mindset, right? So break down the silos. You don't want to have cliques or teams where they're only working with themselves. You want to be able to implement or organize the organization where everybody is working together. They understand what they're working towards, which is where it's so important to have a mission and a vision, because that is the north light or the North Star that everybody is working towards. So whenever they wake up in the morning, no matter their position, they know that they're coming to work for this company because of this mission, because of this vision. And they know that what they're doing today is moving them closer to that point, that North Star, right? Okay, so considerations. Now, I like to use the word considerations whenever we're talking about what could be happening in the next 30 days, right? Now, this might be where you talk about your experience in the past. This might be talking about where you've seen so we're not doing copy and paste, but you've seen certain things that are so consistent in each team that you've managed that you know that this is going to be an area where you're going to bring focus on in the next 30 days and beyond. And then how can you gain that cross-functional relationship and influencer sponsors or sponsorship, right? So whenever you're talking about what can you bring to the table, don't talk about like, I've done this in the past and I have 14 years of experience here, so I know what I'm doing. Talk about it more so like, these are areas that I think that we all can benefit from, but I'm open to your suggestions, your corrections, your feedback if this doesn't make sense for our team, right? So be very transparent, be very open and honest with your team as you're going through what you can bring to the table or what are the things that you can bring to the table. And whenever it talks about the areas of consistency, again, be open minded, open for feedback, because it might be that all these teams that you have managed in the past have gone through this, but it still might need a little bit of a tweak to make it make sense for this company, for this culture, for this team. So be open there. And then whenever you're talking about gaining cross-functional relationships and influencer sponsorship, all you're going to do is in those first 30 days talk to the team, to the department leaders, and understand where you need to have that relationship to get your job done and to help your team get the job done better. And that's the main thing, right? That's going to create another small win for you, as we talked about earlier. Now, really, we're getting down to the last parts here. So, investment areas. Tell the team where you plan on investing time, money, effort. So on the screen, if you're looking at this on YouTube, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 being people, 2 being process, 3 being comp plan adjustments, and then 4 being other areas. So what I have here is people. I have it blank, but what we're going to be talking about is we care about the people. So we're going to invest in their growth, their development, their skills, and just them becoming better, right? And then in the processes, we're going to be focusing on becoming more efficient and effective. That's the key thing. We want to be efficient, but we also want to be effective. As I mentioned before in other videos, efficiency is good, but it can also be bad because sometimes being too efficient takes out the employee. And we don't, and if you're too efficient, then you're not really thinking about how the employee feels or thinks about what's going on. Now, if you're effective and efficient, then that's where it matters to bring in the employee. And you're really saying that you care about the employee because this is most effective, not just for the company, but also for the person. And then comp plans, similar to what I said earlier, you just want to you want to figure out what makes sense for the team and individual. Are there any changes that need to happen? Are there any things that we need to think outside of the box on? Are we not meeting our quota? Is there any way that we can incentivize these employees if they don't meet their goals? So because you're really thinking about retention, not just that money is there, but like could it be something that we need to offer more PTO or we need to offer more training or whatever the case is, right? And then other areas, work with the team to understand what they want to invest in. That's why I say other areas. I know that that's broad, but you work with the team to really identify those areas. So I said that I would talk about the mission a little bit later on, and that's what we're talking about here. So we have the mission and the vision for the company, hopefully, and that tells us what we're working towards. But then also, we want to ask ourselves as a specific team, what do we want to be known for as a team? And really work together with the team to identify that. Because if you just identify this on your own, then the team isn't necessarily going to feel bought in. They're not going to feel like they were valued during this decision making, right? So work with your team to establish that, but let them know in the first 30 days that that you want them to start thinking about this. And what that does is it tells them, hey, this manager cares about how I think about what I do, right? That's the key of this. You want to create a mission that everybody on the team can get behind. And don't just have one meeting and call it one and done because that's not going to affect everybody. So have brainstorming sessions, have real conversations with these people and have something that everyone can rally behind, right? So that is really the end of how I talk about the first 30 days. And the last part is just your contact info. So I know that this sounds strange, but a lot of leaders don't tell people the best way to communicate with them, right? So for me specifically, you can reach out to me via phone, text, email, Slack, whatever communication systems in your organization. Teams, Zoom, whatever. And then I tell them my typical availability, right? 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I try to sign off at 6:30. It doesn't always happen, but I want to set that expectation for them, right? I'm going to be here for you from this time to this time, and you can reach out to me in these areas: Slack, text, email, phone. And then I give them my phone number so they can call me if they have something urgent. And then they obviously have my email address, but just in case, I'm going to go ahead and put that up there. And then whenever I'm out of the office, I set the expectations as well. So email and Slack are both on my phone. I do not have notifications on, but will check periodically. So they know whenever I'm out of the office, I might not respond as quickly as possible, but I will respond and I'll be checking those periodically. Now, if I don't plan on checking that, I'll tell them ahead of time. So I hope that this is helpful for anybody who is transitioning into a position. This is really the key. Understand, just try to understand as much as possible on the people, process, product, and then create the purpose around that through the mission that you all create together. So if you want to know how you can implement this in your organization, reach out to us at zwright, ZWRIGHT, at imeoconsulting.com. Or if you want to learn more about IMEO, you can go to imeocompany.com or check us out on our social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. They'll all be on the links below or in the description below. And just thanks so much for watching, and reach out with any questions, and we'll see you on the next video.